Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Potter, and I am the host of the Living the Dream Video Summit. I have the opportunity to gather together conscientious entrepreneurs. I have life coaches, business coaches, Reiki masters, shamans, and I'm gathering everyone up together to ask them one specific question. How are you living the dream? And the purpose of that is because I see so many of us, we have these amazing dreams. We came to earth to really pursue our dreams, and then we cloud them over with our fears, with all of these insecurities. And so I want to bring together these professionals and ask them this question so that it can encourage us and help us break through some of those barriers. Today I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming someone who's very influential in our community, and actually the person who invited him to be part of this said you're going to want to interview him. He's the real deal. This is Gary ACEVEDO. Welcome, Gary.
Hi, nice to see you.
I'm so glad you came with us today.
Yeah.
So this is going to be fun. I have some really fun questions for you that can help our audience. I want to introduce a little bit about you, your history. You have offered empowerment for the last 40 years in all different ways. NLP, Rapid Eye, Gestalt, breath work, and TBM. I mean, that's just the beginning. You're an author. You created this retreat called The Awakening. So many things. So I just want to thank you so much for the work you've done so far.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
It's so wonderful. I got to watch some of your videos and I was just beaming. Just like, wow, this man has found his passion.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, actually, the very beginning, the question I have, the kind of power that you're able to give the people who come to your awakening retreats and the people who read your book, everything like that, it's because of your own awakening. Can you tell us, share your own experience about your own awakening? How did it begin? How did this begin for you?
Yeah. Basically, I was fortunate enough to find my first mentor, Mel Wasserman, when I was still in my teens. And I didn't realize at the time, I was too young to realize that he was in the field of transformation or healing or reprogramming. He was literally 2 generations ahead of his time. And what I did experience was profound experiences, breakthroughs, life-changing paradigm shifts, over and over, and I lived there for 3 years. And then when I left, I was extremely excited to basically, find the next great thing, the next thing that would be even a step up from what Mel Wasserman gave me. And the fascinating thing is I went around the world and I basically immersed myself. I dove in to everything I could find. I did Ask back in the 70s and primal therapy and Gestalt therapy and just everything, And what fascinates me is that after 40 plus years, that I've never found any technology for healing or reprogramming on a core level more powerful than what Mel Wasserman gave me that many years ago. I took what I call his breakthrough, and I took that process and I evolved it, and then I created the awakening so I could house that process. And what fascinates me is that, after a day and a half or whatever of building a lot of safety, I will take a volunteer and say, okay, who would really like to have a core level breakthrough on any topic, love life, money, and somebody raises their hand. And then I start to work with them, and using some of these techniques that Mel Wasserman gave me, within about 20, 25 minutes, there's not a dry eye in the house. Everyone is so touched and moved and lifted and inspired. And everyone in the room is crystal clear that that person's life will never be the same. And it's an incredibly profound process. It's a life-changing moment for anybody who's done it. And what I notice is that my secret weapon is to look through the eyes of Christ-like love, unconditional love. And the most profound experience of my professional career was that one time I was working with the greatest therapists on the planet at the time, who'd worked under all the giants and the icons. And I had a very profound experience where this woman was having a very hard time talking about what she thought was her big hang-up, which was, I think, being overly critical. And suddenly I had this vision of her that she was incredibly sensitive. And as a child, when that energy got slapped down by life, by parents or peers or whatever, that energy had to actually go in the opposite direction. So it was originally a gift, strength, and talent, and then it had to go the other way, and it became a defense. In her case, it was being overly critical. And in that moment, what I saw was that human beings do not have hang-ups. Everyone is perfect. I saw the perfection of human beings. And that what we call hang-ups, whether it's depression or anxiety or being overweight, it doesn't matter, is really ultimately a great gift, strength, or talent that got smashed and went in the opposite direction. So what I began doing was, at the time, everybody in my field was really into confrontational type workshops and take responsibility for your life and that kind of focus, And I came home and I thought, if everyone's perfect, what would happen if I took all the confrontation out of my workshops and I started to really focus on what is right with people? So I designed an experimental 3-day workshop where I would just shower people in everything that's right about them. And it was, it was literally an experiment. And what happened is I had a woman at the beginning who said, wait a minute, you're saying I create my life? You're telling, and she's like a famous person with an album, and she's like, I'm famous and I have this, and she goes, you're telling me that I created this bozo for a husband? And on the third day, near the end of the day, we were doing a powerful process, and suddenly her eyes got really big, and she went, and she started to cry, and she couldn't stop crying. And when it was over, and she could talk, she said, I gave myself the cancer so I could get out of the marriage. And she literally reversed irreversible cancer, which the doctors were like, that's impossible. You can't do that. You know what I mean? So I knew I was onto something big. And eventually that became the awakening. And what I discovered, and I'm gonna read from my notes a little bit here because I want to make some points about that I put into the book that became a bestseller.
Please do.
Yeah. Basically, what if the person who acts like I don't care is the person who cares too much? What if the person who is so critical and sharp and prickly is actually so soft and tender on the inside? What if shyness is being sensitive and you actually possess incredible clarity and insight? Like if I want to know what's happening to people in the room, if I ask the shy person, they'll tell me with more clarity than anybody else in the room. So what if depression is actually the suppression of a new emerging need in my life, and the old meanings are falling away, but the new meanings haven't showed up. And so I'm getting a lot of emotion, and because I don't know what to do with feelings, I start shutting down, because if you have too many feelings, your body literally has to shut down. And that's called depression. And by working with clients, therapists, and doing some of the innovative tools in conjunction with their therapist, I've been able to take people off who've been on depression medication for years and get them off their depression medications within a matter of months.
Amazing.
By simply learning how to deal with those emotions on a consistent basis and do something different. And what if anxiety is actually caused by the holding back and building up of one's responses? See, anxiety actually reveals the power to accomplish. So what if our greatest doubts are actually the opposite of our true self? Like, for example, at some point in the workshops, sometimes when people are safe enough, I'll have people, share about their deepest doubts and fears, what we call the emotional black hole. Like I'm unlovable, or I'm not good enough, or, I'm insignificant, or I'm invisible, or whatever their doubt or fear is. And at some point I'll say, okay, if you have a doubt that maybe you're stupid, stand up. And people will stand up. And I'll say, everybody, what do you notice about their spirit? And everybody goes, these are the most brilliant people in the room. And then I'll say, okay, now if you have a doubt that maybe you're unlovable, stand up. And everybody goes, they're the most lovable people in the room. I mean, it's obvious. and people don't get it. It's like these doubts and fears that they live with their whole life and are the real cause of their lack of results. Like, for example, I'm doing a course right now called Manifesting Money, and which is really about showing people how to have a divine connection and act on faith and set their intentions, to really dive in and set their intentions. Every year, people sign up for my retreat, and they put a deposit down, and then sometimes they try to get some extra things to make some extra money so they can, and they get nervous. And so I do this class for a couple of months before the awakening. And I always have 8 to 12 people who sign up to try to manifest the money. And it's fascinating because every year I have about 1/3 to 2/3 of the people literally manifest thousands of dollars out of the blue. And the reason it happens is because they set their intention, they dive in, and then I give them new skills and processes that take these doubts and these fears and get those out of their way. So, the worst you can say about most of us is that we're extremely clever at getting in our own way.
So that actually is a really, really good point. I was looking at some of the things that you wrote for me to review. What we're finding, so much of the reason why we block ourselves and get in our way is just because of fear. We have fear just as an inherent way of living. And what I'm hearing you say is that fear has been an archaic way of being. It's been a very great motivator. So is guilt, so is shame. These are all great motivators. And yet what you're talking about is true change. True change happens, and the way that you said it is to speak to the very best of people.
Yes.
The very best of people.
Yes.
And that way, you are the most lovable person you could possibly be. You are the most successful. And I want to specifically ask you about the money workshop that you're talking about. This is something that our audience, when they sign up for the summit, they want to know. They want me to ask the presenters, tell us what can you inspire? What feels energetically connected right now to share with our audience about eliminating money as a barrier in living their dreams?
Yes. It's really interesting because when people sign up for this course, I teach them that when you want to, there's a lot of great movies and tapes, like a lot of people have seen The Secret. A lot of people have listened to Abraham Hicks material, or Kevin Trudeau's Your Wish is Your Command. There's a lot of great information out there about how to manifest. about the fact that when you actually focus on the positive for anything you want, doesn't matter if it's love or money or whatever, if you focus on the positive and don't let your doubts and fears get the better of you, you basically build up a ball of energy. And when that ball of energy gets big enough, it will absolutely manifest the thing that you're focusing on, and it happens by law. It has to happen. And I have hundreds of stories. Every time we do the awakening, there is somebody who can't wait to tell us about the weird miracle that happened in their life, about how the money just showed up out of the blue. Matter of fact, I'll give you one quick story because it blows me away. You know, I had this woman who she was seeing me for private sessions, and I kept telling her, you know, what you really want to do is the awakening. And she kept, I don't like groups. And she, you know, and finally she said, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll jump into the awakening. But, you know, she just got divorced. She had never been in the workforce. She had a lot of debt. She was really nervous, right? So she got an extra job and she started trying to save up. And about, I don't know, 3 weeks before the awakening, she called me up. She goes, I'm so panicked because I've added everything up and I'm going to be like $400 short, right? And I said, well, the main thing you got to do is, even if it looks impossible, you have to keep your intention in, so that you have a little, because when you have your intention in, you have a little invisible antenna that sends signals out to everything in the universe. And anything that can support you can find your antenna. But if you pull your commitment out, if you pull your intention out, the antenna goes down. Nothing can find you. Now it's me, my flight or flight mind, my doubts and fears, and the physical realm. That's a bad combination.
And it's right then when it makes all the difference. Right then when it feels impossible.
Yes. 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 So then she calls me up like a week later and she goes, you know, people do this. They always say, what did you do? How did you do that? And I'm like, I didn't do anything. What happened? And she says, I got the strangest call from a friend who said, Barbara, I know you haven't heard from me in 8 years. But the other day I was meditating on how I might make my marriage work, and I literally heard a voice say to me, give your inheritance to Barbara Taylor and the marriage will work. So I'm calling you just to let you know I want to give you my inheritance. Now, Barbara, whose jaw is dropped, says, I don't want your inheritance. I just want to borrow $400.
You know, Gary, if I was listening to you right now, imagining being your audience member, and we all hear those amazing stories, and not all of us are getting those calls. But what I'm hearing you say is that it's right. That's the most pointed thing that I've heard in a long time. Thank you. It's right then where people feel like it's impossible. The fears and the doubts start to set in, and that's when people's antennas go down. We allow ourselves to be encumbered in those fears again. And you're saying that's where you get to just keep going. And that's the law of the universe.
The magic formula for success in anything, manifesting money, love life, whatever, okay, is this, okay? Impossible, great, I'll do it.
Oh yeah, you're speaking my language.
Didn't happen, great, new game.
I love it.
The reason why people pull out their intention and their commitment is because when it starts to look impossible, instead of keeping their commitment in and going for it, they worry about, well, what will people think if they find out that I went for this and it didn't happen, and they pull their commitment out and now it can't happen. They're going through the motions. Now even what they try to do, even the stuff they always do that usually works, stops working.
I hope that people rewind that part and listen to that over and over again, what you just said. Well, I
have thousands of stories of people, like my first great success was Mark Hughes, who I coached into starting Herbalife and eventually became the fastest growing company in history. And, you know, best-selling authors Ron McMillan and Joseph Grenny, who, because of them doing the awakening and the retreat, are literally with their partners responsible for bringing 12 million people out of poverty through microloans around the world. And just like mothers who are worried about their teenagers, you know, because they're getting into drugs or gangs or whatever, who, because they operate by these principles and get their kids to do the awakening, suddenly they do a turnaround, and their lives are completely different.
So you're the first to know that there are so many different kinds of seminars, workshops, and retreats that people can sign up for. And you're sharing something very unique. Can you share with us what makes the awakening more unique? Why would people want to go towards this one? What's something that you offer that is so unique within?
Thank you. I believe that once I had that experience about the perfection of human beings, and I created my workshops and my retreats to shower people in what is right about them. So the awakening has some of the most profound processes on the planet, things I've gotten from other disciplines and transformational technologies, but also some of my own unique processes. And what happens in that environment, like for example, when I teach speakers and presenters and trainers, I teach them that the most powerful tool that any presenter has at their disposal is the space of a room, the invisible emotional atmosphere that happens in a room that makes people lean forward in their chair, that makes people laugh at the jokes. And if you get the space high enough, then people have profound paradigm shifting experiences. And I found out many years ago that the key element of igniting the space higher and higher is called subconscious safety. So if I have different tools that inject more subconscious safety into a room, like at the awakening on the first full day, it's not uncommon for people to literally say, wow, I didn't know that I wasn't safe, but I'm realizing that I am safer with this group of strangers than my own family and my best friends. And then by the end of the day, the end of the first full day, they are so touched, moved, lifted, inspired that they actually get to a space where they look like deer in the headlights. You know, they kind of look like the end of a good Steven Spielberg movie where they like, you know, like that. You know, they're speechless because they're so lifted and in ecstasy. As a matter of fact, you know, I think I want to share with you one really beautiful story about the kind of things that happen at the awakening when the space you know, a lot of what happens in my workshops, the miracles that happen because of what I've learned about vibrations, vibrational and energetic healing, okay? And I'll just give you one example. I had a young gal from Santa Fe, young 20s, and we were doing breakthroughs, which are all very powerful. And her small group facilitator was doing this profound breakthrough on her. And all of a sudden, the woman had what in Eastern philosophy calls a Kundalini experience, where your body gets hit with so much energy that you can actually see the energy go through their body, and then the person goes into like this higher realm, this higher reality. And she came out of it and she looked like a saint. And the facilitator said something, and the woman went like this, like, I can't talk, right? So the facilitator put a woman in front of her, and she just beamed this angelic smile, and then she reached up and touched her on the heart, and the person burst into tears and had this huge healing.
Wow.
Okay? when she was done, and the space in the room just got higher and higher and higher. And so then when she was done, this facilitator put another person in front of her. And so again, she smiled, she reached up and touched her heart, and the person burst into tears and had this huge healing experience. Well, on the third person that the facilitator put in front of her, not only did when she touched their heart, did the person burst into tears, but in the corner of the room, some pipes burst through the ceiling. Which, some people who were skeptical could say that was just a coincidence. Oh, yeah. But none of us who were there will ever believe that.
That's
right?
I want to ask you, so I'm very inspired by what you're saying, and I want to ask you, if just because we have you here and your audience is listening to you, I'm pointed back into what an amazing gift that you're able to give the people, your participants, of seeing them as already perfect. What an amazing thing that you are able to that's what you've created your life to do, is when someone walks into your life, you already know that they're perfect. It doesn't matter if they're overweight, if they're in poverty, you already see them as perfect. And I want to commend you for doing the work that you've done within yourself to be able to give that gift to the world.
Yes.
So I ask you, for people listening right now, every one of us has those fears. Right then, we're about to get our antennas going down. We're scared. There's these things happening in our lives that there's reality hitting. There's banks calling. All of these things. What can you give us today that helps us and encourages us to keep that antenna up, to really truly believe that we are going to be okay, to get to the next level of attraction, of creating our lives?
Well, in my workshops, we have a program called Movement to Mastery. That's a long-term consistent program. And in that program, people actually learn a series of processes that they can do on themselves to move doubts and fears out of their way and get back on track and move toward the dream, right? Because we all get triggered, we all get upset, we all feel like ripping people's face off at times, right? And we need to find a way to get out of the negative thoughts and feelings and get back into the positive thoughts and feelings, into the theater of love and play, so that we don't stay focused on the negative and then start attracting a whole bunch of other negative stuff, okay? I'll give you one quick example. I mean, we have a lot of different tools. And like, for example, there was one of the things I immersed myself in was called Gestalt therapy. And then it basically, Fritz Perls discovered if you put two chairs facing each other and you talk to yourself out loud about any conflict or situation, whatever's going on, it brings subconscious to conscious, and you have insights and ahas and discoveries and like, oh, wow, that's what I need to do, like that, okay? So I evolved that process into a layman's version, and it's very powerful. But for example, for people who are really upset with someone in their life and they realize they don't want to just dump on them, like their marriage, they want to, like in marriage as an example, the best tool you can do to reignite your marriage or to bring things back to life is to have 7 positives for every negative or complaint. But that's usually asked backwards from what people do. You know what I mean? Okay. So you can put the person that you're married to in the chair when no one's around. Nobody can hear you, especially not the person. And you can actually move your emotional energy by actually venting to an empty chair and get all the gunk and the irrational stuff out of your system. And once you can feel the energy dying down and it's not so bad anymore, then you can play both parts and you can actually have a huge insight or revelation into, and that's just one example.
One example of many tools that you
offer. Yes, of many tools. Something I want to say about why I can see the perfection in human beings. Many years ago, I had this beautiful, profound experience where the room got so high that God stepped into me, and Gary moved to the left. And I went to people in the workshop, and I was doing a ceremony with them, initiating them. And I got to see through God's eyes. And some part of that never left me. So today, when I do what I call a soul reading, I can look at anybody and tell them what they look like in their highest self, their best self, what they might look like if we could visit the spirit realm and say, that's what you look like. And then I can show them the next few years of their life and what the next few years of their life is going to look like if they stay on the track they're doing now, as opposed to maybe a better track because they let themselves do some healing or reprogramming or, that kind of thing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So I know that today you're offering a free gift of one of the tools you offer. Can you tell us about the free gift for this audience only?
Yeah, absolutely. The free gift we're going to give, we have a workshop called Unlimited Influence, Success in Relationships. It's coming up in July. And matter of fact, I want to make sure I give you the right date. It's July 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And that is a $500 course. It's 2 evenings, an afternoon, and a day. And a lot of people have changed their lives using that course. And so if they sign up to let us have their email, then we're going to give them that course for free for the, until it's sold out. Okay. And we're also going to give them the opportunity to have a soul reading with me.
Absolutely amazing, Gary.
Yeah.
Absolutely so generous. I really hope that people just peaked their antennas up, because that is a very generous offer. Very, very beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're gonna continue. We're gonna have that link on the video so people will know how to find it. And do you want them to put anything in the subject line, anything specific about this, anything like that, or you're going to be able to handle that?
Say it again.
Just making sure people will know how to receive that specifically, just by creating on the link itself. You're going to have that offer given to people at part of the summit. We're gonna.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
I want to thank you so much. The time is already. We're already done with the time. Gary, you are a wealth, an absolute wealth of I'd actually say empowerment, a wealth of empowerment with all of the tools, all of the experience that you offer. So I want to specifically thank you for living your dream. You found your way of living and helping the world be a better place. And it's so obvious that you are in your bliss and that you're being profoundly impactful.
Well, my greatest high is helping people who want to change other people's lives to turn their passion into profit, so we can get as many people out there making, heaven on earth. So thank you for letting me have this opportunity.
Absolutely. We're on the same team. I really love your passion. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and you have a wonderful day.
You betcha. You too. Thank you very much.